They say you don't know what you have until it's gone. I fired the only man who could save my company, and maybe my life. But that morning, all I saw was an obstacle in my perfectly planned path to success. My name is Diana Sterling, 32 years old, interim CEO of Hartwell Industries, and I had exactly 87 days left to prove I deserved the corner office permanently. 87 days to silence the whispers that I was too young, too female, too emotional for the job. I thought I knew what strength looked like. I was wrong about everything. The sun hadn't yet touched the Manhattan skyline when my alarm screamed at 5:45 a.m. I silenced it with the same efficiency I brought to everything else in my life, swift, decisive, without a second thought. My penthouse overlooking Central Park was a monument to success. Floor-to-ceiling windows, minimalist furniture in shades of gray and white. The refrigerator held pre-packaged salads and a bottle of Chardonnay I'd been nursing for 3 weeks. On my nightstand, face down, was a photograph from my wedding day. I hadn't looked at Trevor's smile in 6 months. Richard Blackwell, the company's COO and my primary rival, had sent a memo to the board. Subject line: efficiency concerns regarding interim leadership. Day 87 of 180, and the knives were already out. I dressed in armor, a charcoal suit, heels that added 3 inches to my height, hair pulled back so tightly my scalp ached. The woman in the mirror looked powerful, untouchable. She looked exactly like the person my ex-husband said he couldn't live with anymore. You chose the corner office over our corner of the couch. Diana, Trevor had said the day he moved out. Across the river in Brooklyn, Marcus Reed was making pancakes. His daughter Emma sat at their small kitchen table, legs swinging, drawing with crayons. The apartment was tiny but filled with things my penthouse lacked. Photographs on every surface. Emma's artwork on the refrigerator. Life. "Daddy, look!" Emma held up her drawing. A man in blue work clothes stood next to a woman with yellow hair. Between them, a small girl held both their hands. Marcus flipped a pancake. "That's beautiful, sweetheart. Who's the lady?" "I don't know yet, but I dreamed about her last night. You were helping her with something really important, and she was scared but trying not to show it. Baby, Daddy just fixes machines." "That's not what Mommy used to say. She said you could fix anything, even broken people." Marcus's hands stilled. 3 years and grief still ambushed him in unexpected moments. Behind his work jacket hung a framed degree from MIT, Master of Engineering, summa cum laude. He hadn't looked at it in 3 years. Hartwell Industries occupied a sprawling facility in Queens. I arrived at 7:30, an hour before anyone else. At 8:30, my assistant knocked. "Ms. Sterling, Mr. Morrison is calling an emergency meeting. Conference room A in 10 minutes. Frank Morrison, the owner, the man who held my future in his hands. The conference room was already full when I arrived. Richard sat at Frank's right hand. Department heads lined both sides of the table, and standing near the wall was a man I recognized from the production floor. Marcus Reed, head mechanic, 12 years with the company. Next to him sat a little girl with braids, swinging her legs and clutching a backpack covered in unicorn stickers. "Ms. Sterling," Frank said, his face red with irritation, "we have a situation. Yesterday afternoon, Mr. Reed here shut down production line 3 without authorization. 4 hours of downtime. Do you know what that cost us?" $127,000, I said crisply. "I'm aware." Marcus met my eyes directly. The pressure gauge on Sector 3 was reading erratic, fluctuating in a pattern I've seen before. I shut it down as a precaution. "A precaution?" Richard interjected. "That cost us 4 hours of production. And when we restarted the line, everything functioned perfectly. False alarm." "The gauge read normal," Marcus said quietly. "That doesn't mean the system is safe. Metal fatigue doesn't show on digital readouts until it's too late. Mr. Reed, I appreciate your diligence, but we can't shut down operations every time someone has a feeling. We have protocols for a reason. With respect, ma'am, I've worked with these systems for 12 years. I know what they sound like when something's failing. Frank leaned forward. Ms. Sterling, you're aware that your position here is contingent on improving efficiency by 15%. These kinds of disruptions concern the board. This wasn't about Marcus Reed. This was about me, about whether I had the strength to make hard decisions. Mr. Reed, I heard myself say, you're terminated, effective immediately. The room went silent, but Emma was already moving. She walked straight to me, her small hand touching my arm. Excuse me, miss, you're making a mistake. My daddy is really, really smart. He's trying to keep people safe. Like my mom always said, he fixes things before they break. I forced gentleness. Sweetie, sometimes adults have to make hard decisions. But what if you're wrong? In my dream last night, something bad happened here, and you needed him. Marcus placed a hand on her shoulder. Ms. Sterling, whatever's building in Sector 4, it's real. It's dangerous. I've seen what happens when people wait too long. Security, please. They left together hand in hand. Through the glass walls, I watched Emma look back once. Her small face creased with worry. I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd just fired the only person in the building who'd told me the truth. At 1:15, Evelyn Hart knocked on my door. At 58, Evelyn was the only board member who'd voted for me as interim CEO. That was brutal to watch, she said without preamble. I did what I had to do. Show strength. Diana, I knew your ex-husband Trevor. Watched him silence everyone who challenged him until there was no one left to tell him the building was on fire. Trevor and I are nothing alike. Aren't you? You're so afraid of appearing weak that you've stopped listening to anyone who challenges you. She stood. Be careful, Diana. Sometimes the people we push away are the ones holding up the ceiling. My phone buzzed. An automated email. Sector 4 pressure anomaly detected. I deleted it. Just another false alarm. But I couldn't quite silence Emma's voice. What if you're wrong? Night fell over Manhattan, and I was still at my desk. 8:17 p.m. Tuesday evening, and I had nowhere to be. My phone rang. Trevor. Still at the office? His voice was weary. Some things never change. Some of us have responsibilities. You think responsibility means doing everything alone. I tried to tell you for 3 years. Success means nothing if you have no one to share it with. But who do you depend on? Who's there when you fall? I had no answer. Sign the papers, Diana. I hope you find what you're looking for. But what you're really looking for isn't success. It's permission to be human. He hung up. On impulse, I opened my laptop and typed Marcus Reed Engineer into the search bar. MIT's youngest chief engineer revolutionizes safety protocol 8 years ago. Marcus Reed, named director of engineering at TechCore Industries 7 years ago. TechCore engineer's wife dies. Company under investigation for insurance denial. 3 years ago. My blood ran cold. Laura Reed, 34, stage 4 cancer. Experimental treatment denied by company insurance. Marcus had been in a merger meeting when his wife died alone in a hospital bed. His resignation the day after the funeral. His statement, no career is worth sacrificing the people who matter. I made that mistake once. Never again. He'd chosen his daughter over his career, chosen stable hours and real health care over prestige, chosen to be present for Emma in a way he hadn't been for Laura. And I'd fired him for it. Carlos Torres called from the night shift. Ms. Sterling, I think you should know the truth about Marcus. 10 minutes later, I knew everything. The man gave up everything for his daughter, Carlos said quietly. $400,000 a year to make 65. That's why we respect him. My phone buzzed. Sarah from control room. The pressure readings in Sector 4? They're getting worse. Supervisor said there was a memo about not creating false alarms. I hadn't sent any memo, but I knew who had. Richard. The phone rang. Robert Miller, night supervisor, panicking. Mrs. Sterling, Sector 4, critical. We're at 138% pressure and climbing. The shutdown protocols aren't responding. Evacuate. Get everyone out. Where's Marcus Reed? You fired him this morning, ma'am. 23 people. 23 lives at risk because of my pride. I scrolled through my phone with shaking hands. Marcus Reed. Please pick up. Hello. Marcus's voice rough with sleep. Marcus, it's Diana Sterling. My voice cracked. You were right. Sector 4 is going critical. We can't stop it. 142% and climbing. 23 people still inside. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Current pressure reading? 142. A pause, 3 seconds that felt like 3 hours. I'm coming. And Diana, I need you there too. This is going to take both of us. You're going to have to trust me. Completely. Yes, I whispered. I can do that. In the background, Emma's voice. Daddy? Is it the lady from my dream? Go back to sleep, Bug. I love you. I grabbed my keys and ran for the elevator. For the first time in my life, I was running towards something instead of away from it. The Hartwell parking lot was chaos. Workers evacuated, fire trucks arriving, and Marcus's old Ford pulling in. We met in the middle. Thank you for coming. We'll talk about it later. Right now, I need the CEO, not the apology. His voice was all business. Stay close and do exactly what I say. We moved through the facility together. The whistling grew louder as we approached Sector 4, the sound of pressure seeking escape. Marcus handed me a headset. I need you to coordinate with Robert in the control room. Through the headset, Robert's panicked updates. 165%. If we don't do something in 8 minutes. I know. Marcus reached a large housing unit. Diana, come here. See this valve? That's the manual override. But the system's under so much pressure that if I turn it wrong, we trigger the exact explosion we're trying to prevent. He stood and I saw fear in his face. This isn't a one-person job. He pointed to a schematic. Someone has to manually hold open the emergency vent on the other side of that wall. 2-person operation. If both aren't coordinated perfectly, catastrophic failure. So one of us stays here turning a valve that could explode. The other holds open a vent. The vent position is more dangerous. Superheated steam release, 3rd-degree burns, possibly fatal. Then I'll take the vent. No. Diana, I've done this before. I can time it by instinct. You have a daughter who needs you. That's not true anymore. Emma told me this morning you make her feel safe, like her mother used to. You matter to her. You matter to me. Emma needs her father to come home. So you're going to do this right, and I'm going to follow your instructions exactly. I touched his face. You fix things. So go fix that vent, and trust me to handle this valve. He pulled out a notebook, sketching quickly. 3 full rotations counterclockwise. 90 seconds. Not faster or slower. When I say mark, you start. 3 rotations, 90 seconds. If you hear metal tearing or smell gas, you run. Promise me. Only if you promise the same thing. Then he was moving toward the access tunnel, and I was alone with the valve. I'm in place, Marcus said through the headset. Diana, before we do this, Laura would have done this. She would have helped the person who wronged her. 23 people get to go home if we're successful. We're both going to tell Emma together. So stop saying goodbye and tell me you're ready. I'm ready. 3, 2, 1. Mark! I gripped the wheel and began to turn. The resistance was brutal. 1 Mississippi. 2 Mississippi. Steady! You're doing great! 30 Mississippi. My arms burned. 185. 190. Don't stop. Don't change speed. 60 Mississippi. Halfway through, my hand slipped. A tremendous crack. The valve jerked. Keep going. That's just a seal breaking. 75 Mississippi. My vision narrowed, but I thought about the 23 people depending on us, about Emma, about Marcus trusting me. 180, 175, it's working. 88 Mississippi, 89. Third rotation complete. Done, I gasped. 160, 140, we're stabilizing. 110, 100, we're safe. I collapsed against the wall, hands trembling. Marcus, are you okay? Silence. Marcus, I'm here. Just give me a second to remember how to breathe. 2 minutes later, Marcus emerged, his shirt soaked, a burn mark on his left forearm, but alive. We met in the middle, his arms wrapped around me. You did it. You were perfect. We did it. Together. His hand touched my cheek. Something profound was shifting between us. Emma's dream, she was right. She usually is. But I think maybe I needed you too. I just didn't know it yet. Mr. Morrison just arrived, and he looks pissed. Together, I said, we face it together. The executive conference room was packed. Every board member, Frank Morrison, Richard Blackwell, corporate lawyers, Evelyn Hart. Marcus and I walked in together, covered in grime, bandaged. We looked like we'd been through a war. Frank's face was red with rage. Ms. Sterling, you violated about 15 company policies last night. You allowed a terminated employee onto the premises. You initiated evacuation without board approval. I saved 23 lives and prevented losses in the hundreds of millions. You panicked and made emotional decisions, Richard said smoothly. I finally understood what real leadership looks like. I placed my bandaged hands on the table. Marcus Reed tried to warn us, and I ignored him because efficiency mattered more than lives. Because I was more worried about looking weak than doing what was right. I was wrong, completely wrong. And if you're looking for someone to blame, blame me. Richard leaned forward. This sounds like a resignation speech. I'm not resigning. If you want me as your permanent CEO, here are my conditions. Marcus Reed becomes Chief Safety Officer with full authority. No one can override his safety decisions. Period. You can't give that much authority to a mechanic. He's not a mechanic. Evelyn placed a folder on the table. Marcus Reed is a former director of engineering at Tech Core Industries, MIT graduate. Published 12 peer-reviewed papers on industrial safety. Designed the industry standard for pressure regulation. Richard's face went white. But you knew that, didn't you, Richard? You ran a background check. You said nothing because having someone that qualified in a mechanic position made your efficiency numbers look better. She pulled out another document, an email from Richard to supervisors. Going forward, only report safety concerns that reach red alert status. Ms. Sterling has demonstrated a tendency toward overreaction that threatens our quarterly targets. Frank read it, his face going purple. Richard, is this real? Marcus stood. Mr. Morrison, I worked at Tech Core Industries. I watched them prioritize profits over people. Watched them deny my wife medical treatment because it was cheaper to let her die. I took this job because it was simple, but last night reminded me why I became an engineer. Because people like Richard will always choose money over morality unless someone stops them. Diana made a mistake, but when lives were at stake, she admitted she was wrong and asked for help. That's courage. I move that we vote on Diana's permanent appointment as CEO, Evelyn said, and that Marcus Reed be appointed Chief Safety Officer with full autonomous authority. Second, said Martha Rodriguez, security, please escort Mr. Blackwell from the building. He's terminated, effective immediately. Richard was escorted out. All in favor of Diana Sterling as permanent CEO? Unanimous. All in favor of Marcus Reed as Chief Safety Officer? Unanimous again. Frank sighed. Ms. Sterling, Mr. Reed, you have your positions. Make sure we deserve you. I stood outside Marcus's apartment in Brooklyn on a Saturday afternoon, nervous. Emma had called me. Miss Diana, can you help me with my science fair project? And also, Daddy won't stop talking about you, and it's getting weird. Marcus answered, eyes widening. Diana, hi. I didn't know Emma called you. And that Daddy won't stop talking about you. Emma called from inside. Come in. I walked into their home for the first time. Photos everywhere. Emma's artwork on the refrigerator. Life. I want to do my project on pressure systems, Emma announced, to show everyone what you and Daddy did. For the next hour, we built Emma's volcano. We fell into an easy rhythm. It felt like family. When finished, Emma sat back. But first, I have a question. Miss Diana, do you think my mom would like you? Marcus went very still. I don't know, sweetheart. I never got to meet her. Daddy says she was really smart and kind, and that she always knew when people were pretending they weren't sad, like you used to do. I think I was sad. I just didn't know it yet. But you're not sad anymore, right? No, I'm not sad anymore. Good, because Daddy told me something after Mommy died. He said love doesn't run out. Like if you love someone new, it doesn't mean you love the old person less. There's always more love. So maybe you're not replacing Mom. Maybe you're just adding more love to both of us. Tears burned behind my eyes. I'd like that. I'd really like that, Emma. Me too, because I've been drawing you in all my pictures for weeks. When Emma went to wash her hands, Marcus moved beside me. She's been asking about you constantly. I want all of it, Marcus. The pancakes and the dance recitals. I want to be part of this. Part of you. Diana, you need to understand. I failed Laura. I chose my career over being present for her. I've spent 3 years trying to be better, and I can't go back to that person. The man you are now, that's the man I'm falling in love with. Marcus's hand tightened on mine. You're falling in love with me? Terrifyingly, yes. He kissed me, soft and sweet and full of promise. I'm falling too. I didn't think I'd ever feel this way again. Are you two done being mushy? Emma called. Because the volcano is dry. We laughed. And as I watched Emma test her volcano, as Marcus's hand slipped into mine, I realized something profound. I'd spent years chasing success, building empires in isolation. But here, with this 7-year-old scientist and this former engineering prodigy, I'd found something better. I'd found home. The photograph on my desk showed 3 people at Emma's science fair. Marcus holding Emma's blue ribbon, Emma grinning, me with my hand on Emma's shoulder, looking like I belonged. My office had transformed. Plants in the corners, Emma's artwork on the walls, and on the shelf a new picture. Marcus, Laura, and baby Emma, all laughing. A knock at the door. Got a minute, CEO Sterling? Marcus stepped in. The board approved the Laura Reed Safety Initiative, full implementation, anonymous reporting, independent safety reviews, medical assistance fund. She would have loved it. She would have loved you for making sure no other family goes through what we did. Emma wants to know when I'm moving in. Marcus smiled. She says you're there 4 nights a week anyway, so you might as well bring your toothbrush. Her words. Her words. Though I agree. Diana Sterling, would you like to come home? To us? Officially? Yes, I'd like to come home. The rooftop garden at Hartwell was my proudest achievement, this green space where employees could breathe. Tonight it hosted the company's anniversary celebration. Marcus stood beside me at the railing, watching the sunset. Nervous, terrified. In my pocket was a small box, a ring, silver, with 3 small stones. Emerald for Emma, sapphire for Laura. Topaz for me. Miss Diana, Emma called. Come see. When Emma went to wash her hands, Marcus pulled me aside. There's something I want to show you. He led me to a corner where a sheet covered something. Emma bounced with excitement. Marcus nodded, and Emma pulled the sheet away. A plaque, the Laura Reed Memorial Garden. In honor of a woman who believed that caring for people is the most important work we'll ever do. Laura's part of this, part of everything we're building. Emma slipped between us. Mommy said you make Daddy smile again, and that she's happy we're all together. She also said you're allowed to be happy too. I pulled Emma into a hug. Marcus's arms wrapped around both of us as fireflies began to appear. Look, Mommy sent us fireflies. I have something for you too, I said, pulling out the box. Marcus opened it, breath catching at the 3 rings on a chain. It's a promise that I want forever with you, with Emma, 1 stone for each of us, to remember that families grow, that love doesn't run out. Diana, are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything. He kissed me. When we pulled apart, Emma stood with her hands on her hips. Finally, when grown-ups kiss like that, there's usually a wedding soon. She wasn't wrong. 6 months later, we stood in the same garden and made it official. Emma was our flower girl, wearing a dress with Laura's sapphire sewn into the hem. When the officiant asked, "Who gives this woman to be married?" Emma's voice rang out, "Me and Mommy do." But that night, as the celebration wound down and fireflies danced, the 3 of us stood together. Marcus wearing the promise ring, Emma clutching a released firefly, me understanding what it meant to be home. Make a wish, Marcus told Emma. She closed her eyes, then released the firefly. What did you wish for? I can't tell, or it won't come true, but I think it already did. She slipped her hands into ours, and as night fell, as fireflies carried wishes into darkness, I realized I'd stopped chasing success. Stopped trying to prove I was enough. Because here, with Marcus's hand in mine, and Emma's laughter in my ears, and love filling all the empty spaces, here I was more than enough. Here I was home.